Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I want to show you how I root Hoyas. I know when I began collecting Hoyas, I was really nervous to purchase any cuttings online because I didn't know how to get them to root. I didn't know if they would make it. I didn't want to spend the money on something that I might end up throwing away or killing. So I've watched a lot of different videos online, and some of them are definitely more informative than others. I really enjoy watching Betsy Begonia. I think she does a fantastic job of explaining things. Even still though, I heard all these terms like nodes and different types of bark, and I just didn't know which direction to go. So I just kind of want to break it down and hopefully help anybody who is looking to start their first Hoya from a cut. So I brought my obovata in to show you what roots look like growing off of a Hoya. This isn't the one that I'll show you how to propagate from today. I've already taken several cuttings from her and I want to give her time to kind of regrow. But if you can see here, these little roots are where you will get new roots from. That's what we want to make sure that we get in the soil. Now when folks talk about nodes, or you're looking to purchase one online, and they'll say you get 2 or 3 nodes per cutting, what they're talking about is this intersection right here. This is what we call the node. So anything beneath this is what would go in soil, and that's where your roots would grow out of. So this is the Hoya that we'll actually propagate from today. This is my Crimson Queen. She's very long and lush and could spare a couple cuttings for our video. So what I've done is lay a couple vines out on paper so that you can see better. Now if you were to order online and someone would tell you that it's a 4-node cutting, what you would be looking at would be 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we go to cut them, what we'll do is we'll cut up to the next node. So we'd cut right here, we'd cut here, and we would cut right before this one began. So this is the vine I selected to take the cutting from today. You can see it has 1, 2, 3, 4 nodes that we will work with today. I also went ahead and sterilized my scissors before we get started. I want to cut back here where the last leaf ends. Now with this vine in particular, there's another vine that's growing out this way. So I want to make sure that I don't disturb that one. So I'm just going to snip. And there's our cutting. Another point worth mentioning here is that I chose a thicker vine because this one is more established and has a better chance of growing than some of the thinner ones that I showed you earlier. So always bear that in mind as you're selecting your vines to propagate from. So from this point we'll break our vine down further so that we can get it into soil. So we'll cut here. We'll cut here close to the next node. And we'll cut this one. You'll find, especially the bigger your vine is, the harder it is to get your scissors through it. So here are our 4 pieces. The next thing we'll do is get our soil prepared. The first thing we'll use is Earthworm Castings. And what I use to measure everything out is just a little kitchen spoon that I picked up at a flea market. So I'm going to use just about half a scoop of Earthworm Castings. Next we'll throw in some Perlite, some Miracle-Gro. So this is approximately a scoop. So I threw away the bag of this, but this is Hoffman's organic orchid bark. We'll use a scoop or 2 of this. The last ingredient we'll put into our mix today is all-purpose potting mix. Today we're using Fox Farms. I believe it's Ocean Forest or Ocean Floor. I'll put the name of it in the description for us. So here it is, all mixed together. If you can see, it's a nice, light, chunky mix. It'll be perfect for our Hoya cuttings to root in. Originally, I had pulled this 4-inch terracotta pot to put these cuttings in today. I realized upon looking at the little cuttings that we have that they would just drown. You would end up killing these cuttings in a pot this size. You're better off finding a smaller pot. Instead, we'll use this little guy. You can see the difference in size there. We'll get our soil in. That looks good. The next thing we'll use today is our rooting hormone. This is the one I happen to have on hand. It's the only one I've ever used. There may be better ones out there, but this one works fine for my purposes. I also grabbed a skewer to help poke the holes into the soil. This will help to keep the rooting hormone from falling off once you dip your cutting into it. So we'll start our first hole. We'll dip our cutting into the hormone. Rooting hormone can be very messy. It's also toxic to humans and pets, so be sure that you wash your hands and you contain your mess. Pull your cutting out, tap off any of the excess that you have, and stick it into the hole that you created. And repeat that for the other 3. Here are our cuttings, all potted up. The next thing we'll do is give it a good spritz with a water bottle. I want to make sure that when I use my spray bottle, I actually want to get the soil wet and not the leaves. It's okay if you get the leaves a little wet, but try to get it in the soil. You don't want to completely soak your soil, but you do want to get it nice and wet. So now we have this beautifully potted up little cutting. The hardest part begins now. What you have to do is make sure that you maintain a high humidity for the next 6 weeks until this thing really starts to take root. What I like to do, it's mid-summer. Now here in Pennsylvania, it's been very humid this summer. So I have taken this out and put it into a nice shady spot. It gets no direct sun, but plenty of indirect light all day. The humidity and the heat have allowed all the propagations I've put out there to really take hold this summer. But if you're watching this in the winter or you're doing it in an area that it's cold, there are other options available to you. You could do a propagation box, also by Betsy Begonia, which I highly recommend watching that video. For maybe $15, you have a contained high humidity propagation area that you can put several of these little plants into. Another option would be to use a Ziploc baggie, and I'll show you that today. So what you could do is take a Ziploc bag, squirt it with not a bunch of water, but some water. And then just simply turn it over top of your plant and put that in a nice area where it will receive some sun. Again, you don't want it to be too hot. And also remember to let it sit. You can check on it every now and again, but let it sit for 4 to 6 weeks. And you'll see soon enough that you have new roots growing and also new growth from the top. When you see new growth, you know you've hit pay dirt. You know that you're doing well, and your plant will actually begin to thrive and create a beautiful plant for you. Here's an example of a Hoya australis that I bought a few months ago. You can see the new growth in it. This was nothing more but this little stick, the lighter colored that you see here. All the green is new growth since I've had it, and I propagated it the exact same way that I showed you today. I wish you the best of luck. I would love to hear any stories that you have about how successful yours were, or if you have other methods that you'd like to share with the rest of us. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe.